Hello, good morning, and welcome back to the Wild Wisdom Wellbeing guest slot with me, Robin Harris of Equenergy Wellbeing Naturally. And I am super excited and delighted to welcome here today Kris Davies of Christine Health and Beauty and Savvy Skin. Because Christine makes the most beautiful, most wonderful creams and so on to put on our skin, but without any of the nasties within those. And not only for us, but for our animal friends too, which are some of the topics that we will be covering here today. But without further ado, I would like to hand over to Christine. Kris, if you would like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about why did you decide to set up your health and beauty business?
Good morning, and thank you for having me on here. I'm very, very excited about this morning, so thank you ever so much. Health and beauty business was actually started 36 years ago.
Wow.
I had the first beauty salon in Wales. And many firsts that came with it, obviously, because it was a very small industry back then. So over the years, I have since learned many modalities as well, gone more into the holistic and teaching it all as well. So I'm also a teacher and assessor, and also set up my own training school. So I have accredited courses for various things, but because of and also learned animal healing and all those different things as well. But because of illness a few years ago, which I had fibromyalgia, and was completely bedridden for many days, I had to look elsewhere of what I could do as an alternative route, and that followed many different things, including dog boarding, because I thought that would be easy. But of course, that's 24/7. So brilliant, but it was, heavy on the body. And so I started coaching, but eventually learning different modalities, different aspects of myself. I went into more of the inner healing, and I was able to completely free myself from fibromyalgia. And then beginning of last year, obviously, lockdown and all of that saw me shutting my business because obviously I couldn't see clients. So I decided then to produce my own products. So using my knowledge, I wanted to create something that I could use, because I react to just about everything under the sun. And I have trained in many skin houses over the years. And I react to really random things, to be honest. But I wanted something that I could use, but also that would heal, in inverted commas, my skin. So I started producing soaps, bizarrely, because as beauty therapists, we don't like to use that word in the same sentence, but opened my mind up, and learning how to make proper soaps has completely changed my skin's life. And also then I wanted to develop into animals as well. And of course, since then, I've also started face yoga, teaching face yoga, which is completely enhanced my confidence and brought a business online as well. So a long sort of winding path, but finally, getting it together after all this last year, as many people have. So that's basically it.
It's been such a challenging year on so many fronts and for so many people in lots of different ways. And it's certainly, when you're a sole trader, you're running your own business, you're doing something that is normally face-to-face and very reliant on being face-to-face. that's going to obviously turn your world upside down and present huge challenges. But amazing that you were able to make those changes and bounce back and create something new and wonderful from all of that.
Yeah, I think I knew I couldn't see my clients. I couldn't take dogs in or anything like that. So I tried a couple of different routes, and then I thought, right, let's use this time to really look at what I really want to do instead of bouncing from one thing to another, trying to make a living then. And that's when I stepped back. I couldn't claim anything from the government, as a lot of sole traders couldn't. So I just decided I've got to step back and listen to what I need to do for me. And so like I say, the skin products, which has been extremely enlightening, shall we say, and challenging, even though I've got a lot of knowledge. For anyone stepping into that realm, I tell you what, it's a whole ball game that I didn't know existed, of all the hoops that you've got to jump through, which makes sense in one hand, but on another hand, it's a lot. It's an awful lot of stuff. And you do see people setting up, making different products and that, and don't do these things, because I think a lot of people don't realize. I didn't have a clue. I did not have a clue, but it's definitely something maybe I could do a course on for other people, because it's pretty. There's a lot. There's a lot to learn.
I gather it's quite a minefield, and like you say, so many things that you have to consider. So I'm sure a course would be very valuable, just for those who are thinking of doing it, even if it then makes them decide, perhaps this isn't for me, but to go into it with awareness rather than to go into it blindly and then either to discover or to not find out and, something happen that you're then get in trouble because you haven't ticked all the boxes. Even if you could do, it's not to say that the products aren't good, but if you haven't ticked the boxes and you haven't covered that, then it could end up being quite a serious problem.
Well, yes, because, you might have ideas, you might have a recipe then, a hand-me-down recipe, as it were. And I think it changed, don't quote me, because I can't remember the exact date, but I think it must have changed about 2011, when you didn't have to do all this report testing. And I had different recipes. I mean, obviously, I learned how to make soaps. That was a big thing. Because even though I know what I can put on my skin, but it's when you look at labels, I'm a big label reader anyway, but when you look at labels and you don't understand half the words on there, it's quite a key thing to thinking, well, this could well be chemical. And if you're chemically challenged, like I am, then it's a bit of an alarm bell. Not all things are chemicals, even though they're written in words we don't understand. And this is sometimes what people do get confused about, because you have to put the Latin name of every ingredient on the label. So if you don't know what it means, it doesn't mean that it is. But when it starts doing all these dashes and numbers and stuff, generally it's chemical. They can also be sourced from a plant, but they might have had changes done to them. So it's quite a minefield on that aspect. But then you've got your product, you've got, and you've played around with it and people have tried it out and it's, looks really good. You've got to get what's called a CPSR, which is report on it. And it's not cheap. It is not cheap to do, as I discovered. And when you're looking at something on screen and suddenly being asked these words that you've never understood, like anything, it's a brand new language. And it's easy to sort of think, oh God, I'm not going to do this. It's because that was, a few £100 to bring bring out, or it can be a few £100 to bring out a soap range then, without your ingredients, without all the rest you've already done, before you've allowed to even put it on the market. And then you have to look at the labeling. There's laws around there. And then you have something that was called an EU portal before Brexit. And then they went and changed it to a UK one. And it's got to be on there. It's got to be on there because you've got to show if it's poisonous. Even though it's chemical free and everything that I do. But as I was saying earlier, there's none of that for animals except the labeling.
That's, as we were saying before we came live, I find that rather worrying, because I too am very big on reading labels. And it's one of the things that I teach in some of my animal workshops, to read the labels on, say, food packets. And if you see something like an animal derivative, what's that?
Yeah.
You don't want to know.
Yeah.
Or if you see things that are chemical formulas. And yes, I understand that if it's a plant product, they may want the Latin name. And you can Google a lot of those to see, well, what is that? And it might just be mint, for example. So you can maybe clarify some of those things. But when you see all of these long names and chemicals and, like you say, things with dashes and numbers, then allow alarm bells to ring. And perhaps those aren't the best things to be giving. I always say to stay away from processed foods as much as possible, or things that have come a long way from what they were, the plant or the basic ingredient, to then going into the product, the food or whatever it is that you're going to be using. Because the more processing that goes in, the further away you are from the nutrients and the goodness of the original. Yeah,
because when sourcing ingredients, that's another thing. So it's finding a good supplier. So a lot of my products are based around shea butter, coconut oil and olive oil. Those are my main of most of my products, soaps and butters and dog products. And so then you start looking at the shea butter. I think, oh, right, okay. Then you're offered organic, non-organic. What's the word? I can't think of the word now. When it's been chemically stripped of color and smell. There's so many different versions. And also, well, where's it come from? And what's the journey it's come from? I do get a bit anal with these things, but it's and therefore tends to make the ingredients more expensive if you want the right, when you tick all the boxes. And knowing those companies haven't tested on animals as well.
That was once a question I was just going to raise as well, yes.
Because it doesn't mean, because it's a plant product or a plant ingredient, there's a lot of companies out there that say, well, we don't test on animals. It doesn't mean that at some point one of their ingredients hasn't been. So depending how far back and how passionate you are about it, and that was a big eye-opener for me. When I started making soap a few years ago, you can buy now melt and pour bases of soap that you can melt down, and that gives you your basic soap. There's no hazardous to you being involved. There's no, because I've got to play around with chemicals in order to make different things. So it's very, very simple, and you can add a few things to it. And I thought, oh, this is easy. This is easy. And then when I started researching the company or this particular melt and pour product that I had, because it had palm oil in it. And at some point it had been tested on animals as well. So that's what opened up my eyes and ears, really. And also then is the labeling. You cannot put on there organic unless the company that supplied you with ingredients are organic and they'll allow you to say it, or you've gone through all these other things. So yeah, honestly, it's an unbelievable, mind-blowing experience. There's many times I thought, oh, I can't do this, because this was a passion, and I started because I wanted something for myself, and so therefore it's easy just to make it for myself, and that would be the end of it. But because I learned so much, and because I realized, actually, it almost felt like I've been lied to for about 38 years in the beauty industry of all the things I need to put on my skin in order to have an impact. And I literally I've always obviously been conscious about what I put on my skin because I've had to be. But even companies that I was selling for, as in network marketing companies and things, start looking at things like that and thinking, oh, hang on a minute, I don't like that in there, and completely stopped anything that was supposed to have a deep impact on my skin that I needed, and literally started using few of my products and everything, and I saw a dramatic change in my skin health, even pigmentation being reduced, lines softened, age spots, hate that term, but that's what it is, just being reduced, apart from eczema and psoriasis and stuff like that. But again, I can't just go and claim, right, use this soap, is going to get rid of your eczema, because it's got to go through so many more hoops to state that. But I can state what it's helped people with, or people's feedback, But honestly, I can't get over the dramatic change, and I just felt people need to know. People need to find, and again, it's buying a natural soap, and it's buying a natural soap. But again, arsenic's natural, so it's so I can't use anything with perfume in either. There's plenty of natural soaps with perfume added, or perfume, not perfume is not the word, fragrance, which doesn't necessarily mean essential oils.
No.
So,
and even those, it depends on the quality of the essential oil.
Oh God, yeah.
That's a whole other minefield.
Oh, we got.
Probably nowhere near long enough for that. Not in one day anyway. But I went on a fantastic course a few years ago, workshop, all around essential oils, 2-day workshop. And we looked at something that I hadn't even realized, though my mum uses essential oils. She's a trained aromatherapist. And so I've been around oils for many years and love them and use them regularly for myself, but hadn't realized about how many different chemotypes of an essential oil there can be. So you were talking about the source of, where are your ingredients coming from? So that's the miles they've traveled, and the sustainability, and whether or not they're tested on animals, but also where for an essential oil was that plant grown, in what soil, at what altitude, all of these things. And it can vary from year to year because the temperatures will be different and the amount of rainfall will be different. It really does begin to get a bit, whoa, completely mind-blowing. I just am in awe of people like yourself who really dig deep into this, who are so passionate and so caring about providing something that is clean, that is, and I love the fact that you keep it simple. I'm very much for keep it simple.
Oh yes, me too. My head doesn't work simply, but I'm trying.
But that we don't need half of the things that advertising or whatever would try to convince us that we do. It's nice, maybe, but it's not an essential, and we don't need to feel we have to spend the money. And also, when I worked for a network marketing company that sold skin products, I learned that some of the products that are available are sold at a wide range of price points. So they're made in one factory, and some big name firm might take them and add a little bit of their fragrance so that it is more branded, but it's just that. Otherwise, it can be very much the same, whether it's on the shelves in a supermarket or you're buying it from a top name brand. And you think, how is that something that you want to buy into?
Yeah.
And not only that, from working with my animal side of my business, I've learned about some of what goes into face creams and lipsticks that you're putting on, not just your skin, but on skin that is so close to going in. Well, when I say so close to going into you're swallowing it. But of course, what goes on our skin goes into our bodies much, much more quickly than food is digested and absorbed. So all of these things that I learned, but then realized I no longer wanted to work for that company because they sold everything in plastic containers. So, the minefield goes on.
It does. And then when you say about packaging, that was a whole other level. Then when I thought, right, okay, I've made these gorgeous soaps, these creams, hydrolats, or I thought, oh, I got to post it. I've got to put it in something. Like, how do I do that? And keeping, it's quite difficult. It is quite difficult to find something. I've gone through so many different packaging companies, and I found a product which is a vegan wrap, which you can then reuse for other things. But it is literally, I think it was something like £18 a meter. So it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. You just, it's like greaseproof paper, but got a wax on it and obviously plant, and you can take a piece off and put it over a bottle top type thing, and it won't tip out. It's brilliant, but it's so expensive. So I think that's going to just whack the price up of what I've got to.
Yeah, it's nearly probably more expensive than the product that's going to hold.
Completely. Yeah, completely. So just got to do your best you can in that. When you're posting stuff or displaying stuff, that's how I've ended up. Otherwise, I was never going to get it on the market. So
well, a lot of companies now I've seen are using things like paper, and maybe it's greased paper, because if you've got a soap or something, it could obviously
you have to have
Yeah. So I love that there is much more awareness of packaging now. There are whole movements and companies who are doing this and creating, all these wonderful new innovative products. And hopefully in time, as we start to become more aware, start to use the power of our spending and shift the whole industry, hopefully into something that is more eco-friendly and sustainable for our future, that then the prices will drop just out of scale.
Yeah, I think it's going to have to, isn't it, at some point. And yeah, just touching on what you said about the paper, if you've got a soap or anything like that, it has to be in a certain, you can't just put it in paper. It's got to have a certain backing to it, because obviously if soap is in, this is why I don't like them in, you see them in these sealed plastic things, they'll sweat. So, which is not good. So I managed to source a paper with this plant wax on it. So it's covering all the expectations from my end, but also it's recyclable. It's it is absolute minefield. But what I also use is anything that's delivered for my ingredients. I keep all the boxes, or anything else that comes to the house. I keep all the boxes and all the padded envelopes and things like that. And I try my best to reuse that. in as much as I possibly can. So at least then I know it's getting reused.
And there's so much more of that, not just in small single sole trader businesses, but in the bigger companies as well. My horse food comes in boxes that have been reused. And yeah, it's just amazing. And I love to see that. You know, it comes looking a little bit battered.
Yes.
And like, you can tell this isn't the first time this box has carried something, but it's perfectly sufficient for the job that it does. And then we sometimes recycle. We always recycle, but we sometimes reuse it again, or put it to some use. We're always needing containers here. It's what it's like living on a small holding. You just, I need to keep horse stuff somewhere, and I need to keep this somewhere. So we're always looking for boxes.
And the thing is with packaging, I do tend to look at it and think, but all you're going to do is throw it away. But people do like to look at something in nice packaging. And I'm very I'm not really interested in the packaging. I want to know what the product can do for me. But an awful lot of people do go for the packaging. And yes, it could be the color and all the psychology and all that run up. But then you've got all these things left over and you think, well, right, what am I going to do with this now? Especially like a lipstick box or something like that. And think, well, what can I use that for? And it's got all the branding on and everything, you know, and I just think, to me, that's a waste. So but there are a lot of people that do like.
But then we've been trained and conditioned to that.
Yeah, you're right.
The advertising industry, as we were talking about earlier, it's just guiding us and training us into what to expect, what to look for, what is desirable. And I love watching programs, drama series that were based back in the 40s and 50s when things came in paper bags and brown packages tied up with string. And I remember when I was a kid, so, you know, 70s, going to greengrocers and there were paper bags. So you filled things with paper bags. And quite often, I remember getting to the checkout as a little child, going to the checkout, and the guy who was ringing up the till, which was a thunk thunk, and the thing came out, he would just go and spin it, and I was like, how do they not fall out?
Yes.
Stay in the bag, it's upside down.
Yeah. And you know, they weren't plastic bags, they weren't carrier bags. You had a basket, or I could say paper bag, and you take your Corona bottles back every week. Your bottles of pop to be to recycled. It was just, that was what it was. It's and
it's, you know, we talk about progress and moving forward, but I think in some things we've lost what was good. And it would be great to get back there. And when I do present wrapping, I have started now to do the cloth where you can wrap it up.
Yes, I like that. It's a Japanese thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And also just brown paper packaging. And I get basic poster paints sometimes, or ink or something, and, you know, do potato prints or draw it, because you can still, and then you can make it so personal.
Oh, I like that idea. Give me ideas now.
Keeping it simple, keeping it recyclable, rather than all of these foil and plastic things, because a lot of wrapping paper has a plastic coating on it, or it has foil in, and like you were saying with the branding on boxes as well, there's the silvering and all of these things.
Which so much.
Yeah, and then we don't even realize we maybe put it to be recycled, but it's not. And
And going back to essential oils, say I trained as an aromatherapist many years ago, and crystal therapist. So when I was making my products last year, I was able to obviously use my knowledge to, in both those areas, then to give people what I wanted then in that respect. So they got the goodness out of that. And all my products also have crystal healing done to them. And they sit in crystals as well. But again, when it comes to animals, people aren't aware of how few essential oils should be used, one, around animals, and two, in their products as well. And because there was such a huge flurry of people trying to make new businesses last year, and crafts and soaps and stuff, I'm in a lot of groups obviously for that, and people are asking questions about essential oils because they haven't got a clue. And that frightens the living daylights out of me. And people don't understand that you can overdose with essential oils.
You can burn, and you can do all sorts. You need to know which ones and how much and to what strength, or do you dilute them? And don't put them around cats generally, because
cats
can't metabolize them is what I mean.
Yes, and it's a lot of people I know have started making melts, wax melts, which I looked at doing at one point, but I found that a bit difficult to do for other reasons. But when I did an actual real stall before Christmas, a one-off, and a lovely young lady next to me was she makes wax melts, and hers were aromatherapy oils, and she understood a lot about it. She'd looked into it, and she had gorgeous products, but she didn't realize that certain ones weren't suitable around animals. And I said, no, your cats are horrendous, known for essential oil issues. I said, but dogs too, your Norma, and let alone birds and other little animals. But people don't realize.
But when you think about it, dogs and their sense of smell.
Oh gosh, yeah.
How much more sensitive, and all the receptor cells that they have in their noses and so on. And the fact that essential oils basically smell a lot of the time.
Yes.
So how much is that going to affect them? And I know that sometimes if an essential oil is particularly strong, or a flower, like lilies, I find lilies a bit overpowering sometimes, and it can be quite sickly sometimes, the scent to me. So you think, if that's what I'm experiencing and my sense of smell is nowhere near as strong and as sensitive as a dog's.
Yeah.
And they always say if you're going to offer them, only offer them at a distance. Don't just go straight in and apply. And always give the animal space that they can leave if they choose to, and don't do it in a closed room. It's like when we're doing painting with paints that give off fumes. Do it outside if you can, or leave the windows open. But always give the animal the option to leave the room if they choose to. It gets a bit strong for them.
And it's the same putting it in products. And again, what you're saying about skin earlier, we do absorb things through our skin, and it is part of the function of the skin. And people don't realize that. And so therefore chemicals and that do get absorbed through the skin and go into the bloodstream. But also it does for animals. And of course I make a paw wax, and you're putting that direct on the paw, which is one of their temperature control methods. And you put, if you put stuff on there that's got aromatherapy oils in, essential oils in, that shouldn't be tolerated, they don't tolerate, that's going straight into them, and on their noses as well. But same with dog shampoos and that. So I make a dog soap. It's got flaxseed oil in. But again, I looked at it because if you look at what's in dog shampoos, it's horrendous. It's absolutely horrendous. And you're putting that all over your dog. So that's going to get absorbed.
And into your own skin then, because you're the one in your dog.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if you're conscious about what you're using to wash your own hair, and I, through working before with products as well, things like if you wash your hair in the shower, be aware that that shampoo is going over all of your body. And if you have eczema or psoriasis or anything on some part of your body that's under your head, then that shampoo is going there too. So if you discover that your skin is irritated or anything after that, after a shower, take into account your shampoo, not just the things that, the soap that you put on, but anything else that's being washed down too. So there's so many things that we just don't think about.
Yeah.
And talking about the skin, sometimes we don't realize that that is our largest detox organ. It needs to breathe. It needs to be able to sweat. It needs to be able to release all of these things. And when we use things like mineral oil, it's second most drying thing, second only to the sun, which we think mineral, it's got to be good. Oil, it's got to be good. It's not. It's from the petrochemical industry. So if we use more natural products, then it doesn't as well clog the skin so that it can't breathe. It allows it to do what it needs to do.
It's mineral oil is frightening. And I first came across that, oh gosh, my daughter was only little, let me think. So say about 28 years ago. And it actually was a company, I think, what I've seen on your Instagram, I think we both have mutual in common. But I was in that company 28 years ago when it was here first time round, and I learned about mineral oil then. And what, like you say, mineral, you think, that's good, but it is mineral oil is basically it's a derivative, but you may as well put petrol straight on your skin. And if you think of it like that, you wouldn't do that. And it is petroleum jelly, that is mineral oil. Baby oil is mineral oil.
We do put Vaseline and all of these things on our skin. And
I wouldn't go near it. Since I've learned that, I don't go near anything.
But it's again, if you're a label, you know. But if you aren't, check on anything that you're putting on your skin, and you will probably find mineral oil in it, because it's in, like you say, so many products.
So many. Back then, when I learned about it first, and I was obviously using products then without mineral oil, and there was only 7 products in the range then, my skin changed dramatically, going from hormonal papules, spots on my chin, and constantly to just completely disappearing, because my skin was able to perform its functions correctly. But then I'd never heard of it back then, and that it was a thing. And then there's a couple of other ones have come up over the years, and there are getting more companies now that are getting more conscious. But the trouble is, it's a very cheap product to use, and people like it because it gives it the glide. So for that feel. So going over to natural and handmade natural products can seem, at first, you think it's not doing anything. So it's a bit like changing your hair products over to a hair soap or natural. It's almost like, hang on, nothing's happening here. And I suppose it's a difference between taking a tablet as a painkiller or your medication, as opposed to an alternative method. It takes longer to very often work, but because you've crammed stuff in you and on you for so long, it can have a detoxing effect. So, I've seen people say, well, I've changed over, but my skin is really bad. Because your body is bringing out all this stuff that's been sitting in there for so long. It's got to come out somehow, and effectively, then you're going into your digestion and all of the inside of the skin. Your skin is becoming your toilet. So you've got to let it all out before you see those changes. And it doesn't always happen, but it can do. But it's it's quite easy to start thinking, I've got to use it more. I've got to use it more because it is natural, because you think it's not got chemicals in it, so it's not going to have such a quick effect, you know, and just got to be patient. Just got to be patient with it. It's
and if you think that that's all those toxins potentially coming out, causing outbreaks on your skin or whatever it might be, isn't that so much better that it's coming out and being cleared? What was that doing to your skin while it was in there and just adding more and more and more? And I find with a lot of the products that I have discovered now, yes, the changeover might feel this is a bit odd and maybe it doesn't foam as much if it's a cleanser or wash or whatever, but I need to use less of it.
Yeah.
When I start to get into that, I know what I'm doing and I know how much to use and it's working as I want it to work. And there are different skin types and different products will suit different skins. So if the first one doesn't work, by all means, try another one. Don't give up too soon, though. Like you say, it does take a bit of a settling in period and a bit of an adjustment and an adjustment to even how we think about it and how we use it. But you were talking about having spots and things. Another thing that I see in things that you can maybe buy off the supermarket shelves is that there are a lot of really drying, astringent kind of products for people, maybe teenagers with acne and things. But then that's pushing the skin to produce more oil because you've stripped all the natural oils off, which is, and I've heard as well, working with that company, that things like shaving products, actually they work to make your face raw, maybe, you know, they'll, or mean that you'll need the aftershave or you'll need a balm and it's like with things like Pringles, one pop you can't stop. Literally.
I like that.
Because your whole being just craves more once you've had a little bit.
Yeah.
So there are products out there that mean you need more.
Yeah. And it's and your skin becomes addicted to certain things too. So I remember years ago, I think it was my mother, I got her onto a natural deodorant and she came out in this rash all under her arms. I'm allergic to it. And I thought, no, you're not. I knew she wasn't, but she wouldn't get ahead. And it's because her skin was so addicted to the products, the ingredients she'd been having for forever. It was then saying, hang on a minute, I need this to work. And it was coming out in all this stuff. Of course, it actually was the toxins coming out. She thought it was an allergic reaction, so she just went straight back to her old one. And it's frightening. It is really frightening. But saying about skin strippers, I mean, I remember when I was young and getting interested in my skin, you know, it was the wonderful Clearasil, which, you know, you could actually remove nail varnish with. But
really?
Yeah, you could strip paint off the wall. You could do, but of course I put it on. I mean, I had a bit of an oily T-zone. That was all. When I look back, that's all it was. I'm like, oh, that can't be there. So, you know, the pores were getting bigger and what have you. And I remember using it on my, oh, it feels great. This is so tight and parched. It feels wonderful. You know, let's have a bit more. So do it again. And of course, as you say, your skin naturally has a certain amount of oil on it to protect and preserve the acid mantle of the skin. And then hormones kick in and all of this and things get disturbed at that age. And then because we strip things, use products to strip it clean, and so your brain then sends a message to say, or your skin sends a message to your brain and say, well, there's none on there at all, so we need to pump out twice as much, so your skin gets oilier and dehydrated, and then you get more and more. But it is a teenage dream, you know, to strip the I don't think it's quite like it was. But the other thing is scrubs. People got to scrub their face, and and I went through a phase again when I was a teenager of using après skin product, because it was great. You really getting into everything, and my face would be bright red afterwards, and of course I got no color, natural color. I'm like, yeah, this is great. I did so much damage to my T-zone back then that I didn't have a clue that what I was doing to it, but it was helping temporarily my skin issues, but of course it made it 10 times worse. But it is frightening with either using too much product, the ingredients, and also using too little. So a topic that comes up very often when I teach face yoga in one-to-one sessions in particular, we could talk about different wellness topics depending on what's specific to their needs at that time. What's been really common of late is talking about people's skin care, because obviously we're dealing with this part. So it's not just about the exercising and all that. It's obviously what goes in there, and stress and sleep, but also obviously what we put on the skin. And what I'm noticing, a lot of people are starting to get afraid of what to put on their skin. So a lot of them aren't cleaning their face except maybe a bit of water, and jumping straight into moisturizer. And it used to be always soap and water was always the thing, when I was younger, like, don't use soap. Because now obviously I know what's in the general ones. But there's simple ways of cleaning your face, and it's important to clean your face because obviously the grime is on there. Water isn't enough in any shape or form, especially then when there's added chemicals and God knows what in water. So people aren't cleansing their face properly, but they're also not using any form of toner to tone up the skin afterwards. And so therefore putting moisturizer straight on because they want to put moisture back into the skin and SPFs and all of that. But all that's doing is going straight into open pores. And an imbalanced skin, you're going to use twice as much moisturizer, and it's also not able to do its job properly. So I always say, if you're going to do something with your skin, if you're going to do one, you've got to do all three: cleanse, tone, and moisturize, because there's a reason they work together. So one of my favorite DIY recipes then for cleansing the skin is a mix of coconut oil with aloe vera gel. And again, coconut oil, everybody's become a fan of using coconut oil for every goddamn thing, which is great because you can get it off the shelf anywhere and what have you. But the coconut oil on the skin, if you're using it a lot, can be very stripping because it cleans. If you take it, it cleans the inside. So it's good to balance it with something else. And aloe vera gel mixed together, when you cleanse the face with that, it's a gorgeous feeling. But it's really good if your skin is dehydrated, which most people's are. So if you're worrying about, last year I went through horrendous hot flushes, night after night after night. I mean, no matter how much I was drinking and different things, my skin was still feeling parched. And by using that, I found a really good answer to helping my skin. And you can leave it on for about 10, 15 minutes, put it on before you go in the shower. And the heat from the shower, it protects your skin from the heat and that as well. But also helps as a bit of a mask, if you like. And you can either just wash it off or just wipe it off, depending on your needs. But it's, and then I sell lavender and rose hydrolats and just put a bit of that on. And then I use my other products. But it's interesting though, when people don't know what to do, they stop doing things completely, which is understandable because they don't know what to use at the end of the day.
Yeah, and there's so much about everything now. There's so much information and conflicting information, and we don't know which bits are right and which bits are wrong, because there's probably a grain of truth at least in all of them. So they kind of sound like might be right, but I'm not sure because this says something different and that feels right too. So it is a real juggle, isn't it?
Intuitivity, I think, is the best way.
Yes.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
That is the key. If you think, and we're not any longer, we're not taught to use our intuition. It's if we look within and think about, the answers are there, aren't they? It's just finding that little nugget to from previous knowledge or whatever it is. It's and that's generally how I make my products as well. That's how I was coming up with recipes. Some are dreamt, and which is quite amazing. So from the aspect that I make them and it works just from dreaming something,
or channeling,
which it obviously was. So it's that's a whole other conversation, isn't it?
But also that we can tune in and use our intuition. And our intuition, I agree, I think that is what we're being called at the moment with all that's going on. I think we're being called to take a step back, to listen to ourselves. What is right, what is true for me and my unique situation. And we can use kinesiology. So even just taking a product and holding it and then asking our bodies, is this good for me? So asking that yes, no question and checking out and calibrate beforehand, which is my yes, which is my no, am I forwards or backwards or sideways or what am I? And then once I know my yes, ask, is this the product for me? Is this product going to rebalance my skin or feed me, nourish my skin? And then listen and go with the answer.
Definitely.
But you touched on your face yoga. Tell us more about that. Because I went on one of your sessions and although it was weird and you sitting there pulling all these wonderful faces and having a great it was something I've only recently come across, and then realized that you did it and thought, whoa, I've got an opportunity to actually do some now. I'm going to jump on and give it a go, and with a lovely bunch of people. So it was a load of fun. But tell us more.
So face yoga is a mix of ancient and modern principles. It's a mix of facial exercises, massage movements, acupressure, and relaxation, which covers a lot of ground. So it's a mix of all those things. And it was originally founded, whatever, by generally yoga people who, were able to help people's bodies through yoga and, relax them, tone them, make them more flexible. But obviously it wasn't really doing much for their face. So it was, what about my face? And of course there's over 50 muscles in the face and head. And like our body, they can be exercised. And of course, they're very, very small. So, but of course, with our face, we also have habits that have created lines and different things, which we don't really have on our bodies as in the same way. So you've got to learn to relax areas as well as do exercise. And I discovered face yoga last year when I was doing many courses, as a lot of people were online. And I discovered it through one company, and I learned it thinking, it might be a good add-on for my clients when I can do it and things like that. And it was fine. It was totally fine. And then the beginning of this year, I woke up and I managed pretty well throughout last year, accepting a lot of things last year, not seeing my family and different things, kept myself busy, obviously, with making products. And Christmas time, I think I just let everything hit me, absolutely hit me. And then end of January, I was feeling awful about myself. I'd got out of my own habits. Even, I've always been, for a long time, being very, especially with healing from fibro, conscious of how much water I was drinking and eating, different things I was eating, and so on. And so I got this, and things had just slowly subsided, really. And I looked in the mirror and I thought, my God, I look awful. I really look awful. And when I had fibro, there was days I'd look in the mirror and I wouldn't recognize myself. My face was very swollen or puffy or whatever you want to call it, but it was awful and painful, obviously. But funny enough, as you do, I was scrolling through Instagram and up came Danielle Collins, who is a world-known, renowned face yoga teacher. And I thought, face yoga, I remember this from last year. And I looked at her course and I decided to retrain with her because there was much more method to it and so on. And in doing so, I realized as well, obviously, I've done facial massage for 38 years. I've done acupressure and God knows what for many years. And we also go into a bit of healing element with it as well. And that's what I was doing when the days of fibro were bad, when I had to get on Zoom or get myself that I felt that I could face people. So I was doing all those things already. Never thought of it as a modality then like that. But so I retrained with Danielle Collins and instantly could see within a few days, for me, a difference. And a couple of weeks went by and I thought, let me have a look at my photos. And I always advise everybody to take photos before they start, because even though, because we're looking at ourselves all the time, it's, do I look different? Do I look different? If you take that photo and then take them. So, and a couple of weeks later, I thought, oh, let's have a look. I thought, I can't see much going on here. And yeah, I felt different. And I couldn't believe the changes in my face. And this, was lifted and the puffiness, my eyes were really puffy and those had reduced. But I felt so different. TMJ that I had was disappearing, and my shoulders were more relaxed, and I suddenly felt more like me. And it was like somebody had switched a light on inside me. And I thought, this is awesome. This is really good. So quickly then finished my training with her. And then I was actually chosen to be a super trainer for the company as well, which I didn't know because I asked about it as I do. How do I become one? What I didn't know is that you have to be handpicked. Typical me. So I was, thankfully. And so I'm now a super trainer for them as well. So I not only am able to teach people how to do face yoga for themselves, I can train people to be able to teach others to do it as well. Because it has changed how I feel. Not just when I look in the mirror and think, my goodness, it's turned back the clock, and changed my skin again. I just feel so different. And so it's good for headaches, it's good for sinuses, on the physical level. It's good for neck issues, as in neck strain and tension. But also a big thing that people are asking me about or coming to me about is a necks and eye strain, because they're sat in front of these things now, particularly this last year, or a hand device of some sort, and we're all doing this. And we're all looking at this, whatever light it's called. And so therefore, these muscles aren't getting used. It's putting strain on here. And of course, on the eyes and other things that come with it. and people are getting on Zoom calls, and even though they're in their little square and you're listening to the person talking, you do go back and think, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. And people are coming to me for something called tech neck, and which is where the neck has dropped, the jowls are drooping, but also they're getting so many headaches. It covers a huge array of areas. So I offer that as one-to-ones, which obviously is predominantly being online, and which is great because I can carry on doing my business online, so it's easily done. And classes, I'm going to start doing group classes now. I've sort of worked out when I'm going to do that, which I think will be a Thursday evening, so online. But also I can start doing face-to-face classes now as well, as of next week, which is on Llandow Industrial Estate, which is Llandow near Cowbridge, between Cowbridge and Llantwit Major, for those that are local. So I'm going to be doing group classes there as well. What I'm trying to build in is a club as well. So it involves all the wellness areas as well. Classes, the online classes, the group classes are great, but if you want to know how, what exercises to do specifically for your needs, so you might say, yeah, that's great. I've only got 10 minutes a day that I want to do something. I don't want to create more overwhelm. And I'm sitting in front of the screen and I'm losing my confidence because I know I'm just not feeling myself. I'm getting these saggy jowls, whatever it is. So we do a consultation and then I teach in 90 minutes, I teach that person a program I've designed for them for their specific needs and show them how to fit in with their normal routine. So whether it's when they're cleansing their face, you can add these things in if you're in the shower, or as I was discussing with my one-to-one client last week, you can do it in the evening if you want. Especially if you've got the end of the day and think, oh, I can't be bothered to go upstairs now and clean my face and put on my night cream because I know I should. I said, go upstairs, clean your face, bring your products down, and whilst you're watching telly, you can do your exercises. And she said, well, not if Line of Duty is on.
I might miss something. I might just...
Yeah, exactly. So that was hilarious. It's
turned into such a culture for the nation, that series.
Oh, it has, isn't it? The face yoga seems to be everywhere at the moment.
It does. Yeah.
But this one-to-one client, she has been in some group classes and she's been in a club, but what she found was she couldn't learn it properly because some of the exercises because the muscles are so small, you need that close-up intuition. So if somebody is happy to go along to a group and receive it, as if you're in an exercise class, follow the teacher, then that's fine. And some people are, or some people jump on a one-to-one. And I teach them that, and they're away, they're fine, they don't need any more. Or if I've got people at the moment who feel they need that extra accountability and know they're going to get bored after a while, then I've got a program to keep them going for different things as well. So, but if you feel that you need something more specific, then it's better to jump on a one-to-one. So I do offer discovery calls for that if people want to know how it's going to work for them, if it is for them. There are very few contraindications to doing face yoga, but obviously there can be, which is generally neck issues, because obviously we're doing a lot of movement up here. Pregnancy needs to be checked, but you can avoid certain exercises because it is holistic. We avoid this area here if someone's pregnant. because we're working the acupressure points and that as well. And if there's, if the doctor's not happy with them doing alternative modalities as well, there may be reasons for that. And the only other thing is if you've had Botox and fillers for about 2 weeks before, it's better to let that
settle.
But one of my one-to-one clients, she had something called a thread lift a few years ago, and I'd never heard of it. It sounds horrendous. She'd gone to Harley Street, and literally they put a hole here, a hole there, and literally, I don't know if they actually put a thread in it or what they do. I sort of switched off at this point.
Yeah.
But they literally go like this, and it's like a thread lift. And she said she had a topical anesthetic put on, so she was awake the whole time. She was petrified, but she was desperate. She is a 90s pop singer, probably pop star, not the right word these days, but so she's in, her face is on stage and what have you. And
her face is her livelihood sort of thing. It's her whole image. Yeah,
but she really was desperate, didn't like how she looked. And she said it took 4 weeks of swelling to go down. And then it lasted, the effects were amazing, but they lasted about 6 weeks. And she's done this now, face yoga with me for a few weeks. And her brother, who Zoomed her from abroad, kept saying to her, "You've had that thread lift again." And she said, "No, I haven't. You've had a facelift, you've had something." So that is how dramatic the change can be. And she hasn't done face yoga.
I expect, you were talking before about puffiness and some of the jowling as well. Just lymph drainage is going to help. Just getting that circulation going will really just help to change the contours of your face quite dramatically.
Yeah. So if somebody, for instance, just needed to know how to reduce puffiness, lymphatic drainage through facial massage, acupressure points would be, if that's all they wanted to do, then that was what would. But it's a combination, I find. Even I always had a pad of fluid at the top of where the shoulders meet there, and that's gone. That is gone just from doing these exercises, and you do them. If you want long-term results, you do them 6 days out of 7, and you can spend 5 minutes or 20 minutes a day, whichever is what you can do, really. But it's about making that time for you too, because if you can look in the mirror and think, do you know what? I look quite good today. It's like that makes such a difference. And we all criticize ourselves at the end of the day, but if you can look in the mirror and think, oh, do you know what? I really do feel good today. That changes your whole day, doesn't it?
Yeah, and just to look in the mirror or on the Zoom room and think, I'm quite happy to show this face to the world today.
Yeah.
And certainly I think looking at you, you're a good advert for all that you do.
Thank you.
So, Kris, I'd just love to say thank you so much for coming on, for sharing all of this amazing knowledge and tips and techniques. Can you just tell people, if they're interested in looking up face yoga or maybe buying some of your products, where would they find you?
Okay, so I have a website, but it is in the middle of updating, as they say, which is krisdavies.com. So that's Kris with a K, KrisDavies.com. I'm bringing out some new products very, very shortly on that. Also on Instagram, Kris L. Davies. So it's L for leopard. I can't think what the thing is. Kris L. Davies on Instagram. Lima, that's it. And Savvy Skin is on Instagram as well. And then on Facebook, the Savvy Skin Facebook page, and under Christine Leanne Health and Beauty on the Facebook page. I've also got a Facebook group as well, so I can always add links if you wish. Afterwards, that might be easier. All the spelling involved.
Yeah, it does get a bit challenging. I know that, having a name like Equenergy, always having to spell it.
Exactly.
But that's been wonderful. Thank you again so much, Kris. It's been
great
chatting with you.
And you, lovely. Thank you for having me.
So thank you for everybody who's watching. If you're watching the replay, just stick in a #replay. And if you have any questions, then just stick them in the comments below and Kris or myself will come back to you. So stay tuned for the next guest who'll be coming on next week. Just keep an eye out in the group. I'll be announcing that soon. Bye for now.